Let me say this. Abortion is evil. It is not of God. Birth control. That came from the lips of Margaret Sanger. To control, and her idea of control was not to stop the pregnancy from happening, but to eliminate the pregnancy. Birth control. Margaret Sanger said in 1934 in her declaration to the birth control center by which she founded, she said that black children are a stain on the American culture. We must, by all attempts, control their numerous population growth. She said they're populating too fast, and we got to get ahead of this thing. Do you know who Miss Margaret Sanger? Do you know who was her hero? Her hero was a man by the name of Adolf Hitler. All right, everybody, welcome to Studio B. I am your host, Pastor MDH. Thank you so very much for joining us here on the set today. I have more of a monotone disposition today because of the topic that I'm going to discuss today. I know is going to shake the beehive, strike the hornet's nest. And I'm prepared for people to turn this video off. I'm prepared to be called everything but a child of God. But in my prayer time last night, I was talking to the Lord, and, you know, one of the scriptures that really stands out to me is when Paul says that I persuade men to be saved. You know, as one that is a teacher, pastor for over 20 plus years now, my job is never to inform people. My job is to persuade people, but not to persuade people with my own opinions and what I think about it. Those things, you know, they change like the wind. But to persuade people with facts, undeniable facts. And today I want to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, to my family. I have been an outspoken advocate of this for several years now, even a couple of decades. And that is on the issue of abortion. And yes, it's all in the news right now. The leaked documents from the Supreme Court, or SCOTUS. I have some very, very, very strong views on abortion, and I'm going to take you through a series of things today, so much that I know that I'm not going to be able to get through it all, but I want to talk to you logically. Imagine the statement that you shouldn't kill babies makes you mad or offended. Imagine a statement that someone says that babies deserve to live makes you mad. Not just mad, but sends you into a tyrannical rage when we're talking about babies. There are four names by which many in the abortion movement, those on both sides, I guarantee you, because when most people are arguing for these particular, whether pro-life or pro-choice, they're arguing from a sense of passion and not from a sense of knowledge. And I believe that knowledge changes the way that we interact. It changes the opinions by which we hold, some of them deep-seated, some of them over many, 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 many years. But knowledge or information or introduction to facts should change the way that you see certain things. It should give you a broader perspective on issues that we typically dig our heels in the ground on. And this is one of those such issues. As I was on my way up here thinking about, you know, how I was going to deal with this issue, I'm going to deal with it with the gloves off. I'm not going to make any apologies about it. I'm not going to skate around the issues, even if it does offend you, which some of you, I know that it will. But I'm going to stand on, first of all, God's word, and I'm going to stand on the knowledge of the truth that is clearly accessible to any and all who want to try to find it. Let me say this. Abortion is evil. It is not of God. It is not of God. When we're talking about a woman's right to choose, we're going to talk about this language and how that specific language has been inserted into the abortion debate, preferably around March of 1970, how that specific language has been birthed into the abortion debate, and it has absolutely zero to do with abortion. Abortion has to do with one thing and one thing only. That is terminating the life of a child. That is it. That's all abortion is, from A to Z and everything in between. But to conflate the issue of abortion with all of this stuff that has nothing to do with it is to get people off focus. And I've often said that the original sin of America, by which many people say is slavery, I believe what America is going to be judged the harshest for is not slavery. I believe what God is going to judge America the harshest for is for its approval on abortion. When you're talking about slavery, we had men and women who rose up and said, you know what, this is wrong. To make people be in involuntary servitude, to whip them, to make them work 12, 14, 15, 16 hours a day with no pay, to put them in unlivable conditions, to chain them with shackles and to put them out into the cotton fields and allow them to live life like that. We had people, men and women, black and white on both sides, that stood up and said, you know what, the treatment of these people is wrong and we should stop it. We had men and women, those who loved God, those who didn't know love God, but just had a conscience, who rose up and said slavery should be abolished, it should be banned, at least in these United States where we are living. But in that same manner, nobody stands up and says, you know what? Killing babies is wrong, and we should stop it. It should be illegal to kill a child. It should be illegal. In the same way that the righteous indignation of so many people around this world looked at the involuntary servitude of millions of people against their will, and their consciences were pricked, and they had sleepless nights, and they took that to their prayer closet. They got revelation on the issue and came out and stood against it and said, we must end this heinous practice called slavery. And we put laws on the books. But in the same way, we have not only not done that, we have put laws on the books to make it more accessible to kill children. And I'm using very direct terminology here. Because once you get through all of the weeds of all of this, you're going to find out that this stuff is straight from the pit of hell. It has nothing to do with pro-choice. It has nothing to do with the woman's body. It has nothing to do with that at all. Yes, I'm approaching this from a spiritual side, but I got the facts to prove it up to. This stuff comes directly from the pit of hell itself. And it is time that we start dealing seriously with this issue. Let me give you a couple of names here that I'm sure many don't know. Norma McCorvey is actually a young lady that stayed in Katy, Texas recently, all the way up until 2018. Norma McCorvey is the infamous Jane Rowe. Norma McCorvey, who lived and grew up in Texas. She, at 11 years old, ran away with one of her good friends to Oklahoma City, by which she started having a lesbian affair with this little 12-year-old friend of hers that they had run out to Oklahoma City, and they mysteriously got room at this place called the Black Hotel. The maid of the Black Hotel came in to clean the room and found Miss Norma kissing her friend by which she had ran away with. She was then shipped over to a group home until the age of 15. And Miss Norma McCorvey lived a life that was heinous. She was a a drug addict. She was an alcoholic. She was a prostitute. She, by all stretches of the imagination, she called her mom the B word several times. She said, "That's not my mom, that's my B." She was that kind of girl. Another person that you might not know is a woman by the name of Margaret Sanger, and I'm going to talk about her in depth. Sarah Weddington, Linda Coffey, and a man by the name of Henry Wade. Sarah Whittington and Linda Coffey were two female law students who had just graduated law school in 1969. And they were looking for somebody to be the plaintiff as they would bring a lawsuit against the state of Texas, who had laws on the books banning abortion. But they were looking for a very, very particular person to be the plaintiff in this case to overturn abortion laws. This person had to be white. This person had to be poor, and this person could not have any means of travel to get to any of the 6 states in America that at that time were doing abortion legal. And so Sarah Weddington and Linda Coffey came across this young woman by the name of Norma McCorvey. And at the time, Norma McCorvey was pregnant with her second child out of wedlock. And so Norma McCorvey goes into this old dark alley in the streets of Dallas, Texas, to go to this rundown abortion clinic down this old abandoned alley. And as she goes into this place, she sees roaches and rats and all of this other stuff, and she eventually leaves. She gets a call because she called an adoption agency because she wanted to give her child up for adoption, and the adoption agency transferred her to the desk of Sarah Weddington. And Sarah Weddington began to talk to Miss Norma McCorvey and say, "You know what? You got a good case. You're poor, you're white, you can't get to any of these places to do your abortion in the legal states, in the legal 6 states in America. You are a perfect candidate to be the plaintiff in this case." And on March 1970, Norma McCorvey signed the affidavit bringing Rowe versus Wade into being. Rowe is Jane Roe. Now, they didn't want to make a Jane Doe, so they made a Jane Roe. Wade is the Dallas County District Attorney by the name of Henry Wade. So when you see Roe versus Wade, it is Roe versus the County District of Dallas, okay, the man by the name of Henry Wade. And so when we talk about abortion rights and we're talking about the abortion debate, we're talking about 2 names in particular, but these 2 names by no stretch of the imagination surmise the whole abortion debate. You got Roe versus Wade. 1970, March to be exact, it comes into being. But let me push the rewind button here and go all the way back to 1863. That was a man by the name of Abraham Lincoln, our 9th president, who brought forth the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment would, by all stretch of the imaginations, end slavery between the Union and the Confederacy. Okay, so you had 2 sides of America arguing on either side. One wanted to keep slavery, the other one wanted to abolish it. Okay, you remember this from school. The 13th Amendment was one of the most hotly contested issues in all of American history, even to this day. The 13th Amendment, by the way, was passed by 98 Republicans. Hear this, 98 Republicans and only 3 Democrats. In 1863, here it is, they bring the 13th Amendment to abolish slavery. Now watch this. You got 4 million people that are going to arbitrarily be released back into society with no education, no job skills, and no way to acclimate into society. But let me follow this train, because this train is going somewhere. The hotly contested debate of slavery in the 1800s was the Union saying that we should free these slaves, or at least pay them, pay them for the work that they're doing. The Confederacy says, no. Slaves are a major part of our economy, mainly cotton and sugar. But hear this, every single business in America during that time was invested into slavery. Banks were invested into slavery. Newspapers were invested into slavery. Grocery stores were invested into slavery. Everybody had their hand in the slavery pot. And so the elites, those who were making millions of dollars, and in that day, millions of dollars in that day would be the equivalent of trillions of dollars in our day, were making hand over fist by having the average slave owner had almost 400 slaves on his plantation. The average slave owner. The one who was at the bottom of the pit had 100 slaves working on his plantation all at one time. Slavery was a really big deal. And so here it is, the 13th Amendment is now brought forth, and we're getting ready to let go of 4 million people who are currently in our economy, making us all this money. So now imagine this. The Confederacy said if 4 million people are just released, what happens to our economy? Well, you know the answer to that. It crashes. Okay, because what's going to happen with the taxes that's going to have to be spent in order to support 4 million plus people? So in 1868, there was this thing called the colonization rule. And the colonization rule said, okay, well, if we got 4 million people that are now free, let's just put them on a boat and send them back to Africa. It was called the colonization rule in 1868. They were going to gather up all of these black folks that were currently released and put them on boats and send them back to Africa. It was overwhelmingly supported to the fact that even the Congress of 1868 had allocated almost $1 million to the colonization rule to send them back. But as they began to start thinking, they said, hold on, we got 4 million. It's not going to cost 1 million. It's going to cost like 30 million, and we don't have that kind of money to do that. So the colonization rule was scrapped in 1869. So we're not going to just send them all back to Africa. Now we got to find some way, because we got 4 million plus people that are now free. Now the elites were worried about a couple of things. One, high taxes. They were also worried about intermarriage. And they were worried about these black men going out and snatching up these white women and then intermingling in their race, thus depurifying the white race. They were talking about that these black men will go out there and undercut people who had farming jobs and manufacturing jobs and work for a whole lot less. Right? So it was a whole lot of stuff going on with 4 million plus people who are now freed with the Emancipation Proclamation. So here's what they thought. They said, okay, well, we can't do the colonization rule. We got to do something else. We got to do something else. And out of the blue, and I don't say out of the blue because it wasn't out of the blue, but they found the same way that Weddington and Miss Linda Coffey found Miss McCorvey and made her the poster child for Roe v. versus Wade. In the same way, here comes this lady by the name of Margaret Sanger. The term eugenics was founded in 1873. And it was founded by the cousin of Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin, of course, is, the world is survival of the fittest. He referred to the world as, when the lion goes out there and finds the weakest amongst them, they eat them and discard them. It's the survival of the fittest. It's Charles Darwin. It's the evolutionary theory by which they teach that nonsense to our kids in school every day. But in the 1870s, this term called eugenics was invented, which simply means purity. Okay, when you peel back the word, it simply means purity. Okay, so eugenics was founded by the cousin of Charles Darwin. Around that same time, you have a lady by the name of Margaret Sanger who is popping up on the scene. And this woman, Margaret Sanger, is somebody to be reckoned with. She was born September 14th, 1879. She died September the 6th, 1966 in Tucson, Arizona. And you need to know about this lady because this lady is a handful. Now, I want you to hear this. This lady, Margaret Sanger, had 3 children, James Noah, William Sanger, and, Peggy Sanger, Grant Sanger, and Stuart Sanger. She had 3 kids. Okay, so Margaret Sanger, the purveyor of eugenics, the one who carried it out, the one by which Planned Parenthood was named after, had 3 children. But Margaret Sanger is brought into the mix because of the population control of 4 million now freed slaves. 4 million now freed slaves. In comes Margaret Sanger. And Margaret Sanger brings all of her tools to bear, all of her connections, everything that she knows. She is the one that termed the term birth control. That came from the lips of Margaret Sanger. To control, and her idea of control was not to stop the pregnancy from happening, but to eliminate the pregnancy. Birth control. Not birth control in which we think about it in 2022, taking a pill not to get pregnant. No, birth control means I want to control the birth. That came from the lips of Margaret Sanger. And I'm sharing all this stuff with you because many people, and I shared this with a young man yesterday that I was counseling, many of us, when we're going through issues and problems of our life, we want to deal with the destination. You can't deal with the destination. You got to deal with the journey. You got to figure out, how did you get to this place? Because too many people are fighting battles because they're in a place but don't understand how they got there. The decisions that you made 10 years ago, 15 years ago, got you to the place that you are currently in right now. But instead of dealing with the issues of 10, 15 years ago, you're dealing with the outcasts of the results of what you're doing now. So what I got to do is trace this all the way back to see how we got to 2022. Abortion in America was made to kill black folks, to eliminate black folks. And y'all remember this back in 2020 when y'all started ringing up my phone and I told y'all that you Black Lives Matter, but you ain't protesting outside of a Planned Parenthood? How you gonna talk about you love Black lives, but you're not sitting there at the door of Planned Parenthood and protesting over there, but you want to go protest at a police station? When 73 million people, babies, have died since 1973. When almost 40 million of those people have been African American. But you Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. But apparently they don't matter in the womb. We're talking about this issue of abortion, and abortion was singularly made to control a population of people from its inception. When Miss Norma McCorvey went to Miss Weddington and Miss Coffey, they asked her, because she had told people that she had gotten raped. Here's what Miss Weddington and Miss Coffey asked her: were you raped by a black man? Miss Norma said, well, why does that matter? Weddington and Coffey said it makes for a better case if we can prove that you were raped by a black man. It makes the whole abortion thing better if we can say that you got raped by a black man. Now, I'm going to fast forward here, and I'm going to come back to it. Miss Norma McCorvey right now is a born-again Christian. Matter of fact, I need to research her. She's still alive. But in the last 10 years, she had an epiphany and came to faith in Christ, got baptized and all of those things, and has since repented of all the things that she did in regards to this whole abortion debate. But this thing about abortion is front to center, at least in America, has a lot to do with the extermination of black folks. And so, and listen, to all of my Caucasians and Hispanics and Asians who are watching, y'all just kind of take a stop for I am amazed at black people who are pro-choice. Like, you're talking about shooting yourself in the foot. Why? Let me continue on with my notes. The case began in okay, so you got Miss Margaret Sanger, who is a purveyor of eugenics. It is Margaret Sanger that said that black children are like weeds that need to be exterminated at all cost. It is Margaret Sanger that said that the black life adds no value to our society, only takes away value. Margaret Sanger said in 1934, in her declaration to the birth control center by which she founded, she said that black children are a stain on the American culture. We must, by all attempts, control their numerous population growth. She said they're populating too fast, and we got to get ahead of this thing. And so Miss Margaret Sanger, the purveyor of Planned Parenthood, which was not called Planned Parenthood until the 1960s, 1964, I believe, Miss Margaret Sanger, the purveyor of Planned Parenthood, has been on record time and time and time and time again about her disdain towards black people. Now watch this. This is going to mess you up. Do you know who Miss Margaret Sanger, do you know who was her hero? Her hero was a man by the name of Adolf Hitler. Hitler actually flies Margaret Sanger over to Germany to speak about eugenics, because Adolf Hitler said that me and Margaret Sanger got a whole lot in common. I'm trying to do this whole Aryan nation, the purity of the white race over here in Germany. I'm trying to eradicate all these Jews and get all these crossbreeds out of my country. And you're doing the same thing in America. You're trying to get rid of all these black people. But the way that you're doing it, Miss Margaret Sanger, is ingenious. So please come over here to Germany and tell us about your methods. So Adolf Hitler, the Fuhrer, Adolf Hitler flies Margaret Sanger to Germany, and she speaks before their council about eugenics. And this is what we're talking about when we talk about abortion in America. That has been disproportionately affected towards one people group. And I want you to think about this. There's a bill right now that I'm looking at. It's AB 2307, abortion bill. And this abortion bill, now watch this. Let me go back. When 1973, when Roe versus Wade was legalized, and now abortion is legal in all 50 states. Abortion was only legal up to the third month, to the first trimester. It was only legal up to the first trimester, 3 months. There's 3 trimesters. It was only legal up to the first. There's a bill right now that is on the Senate floor. This abortion bill allows abortion all the way up to the time of birth. Now, I want you to think about this. Let me take a little sip of my coffee here. This abortion bill allows abortion all the way up into the third trimester. Now, everybody, if you've ever seen a really pregnant woman, in the third trimester, her stomach is out to here. This abortion bill allows for abortion all the way up until birth. Let me read a portion of this bill to you. If the mother, even while dilating, decides that the baby is not wanted or is in high risk of physical harm, the fetus can be terminated. Yeah, I'm going to let that sit on you. I have been there for all 4 of my children. I've watched my children come out of the womb. I was in the delivery room for all 4 of them. Cut the umbilical cords, all that good stuff. This bill says while the mother is dilating, while the mother is dilating, the fetus, the baby, can be terminated. And nothing happens. We are living right now in a society that has lost its way. America right now is morally repugnant It's morally repugnant. The values, the sense of right and wrong is completely blurred now. And if there is something that burdens the heart of God, I believe it is this issue. And how you will have people die on this mountain saying, it is my right to kill a child. And I'm making no mistake about the words that I'm using. It's my right to kill a child. It's my right. I'm a strong proponent of children, man. I love children. And I don't think children should have to pay for the foolish mistakes of adults. Well, Pastor Holman, what if a woman is raped? You mean in 0.6% of the cases? You mean in 0.6? Let me give you an idea of what that looks like. In America, we abort 1.8 million babies a year. 1.8. I'm just talking about America. Out of that 1.8 million babies that we abort in a year, watch this number. Watch this number. 713 of them fit your category. Out of 1.8 million. Out of the 1.8 million, do you know how many of those are in the third trimester? Almost 200,000 babies that are aborted in the third trimester. That means when the stomach is out to here. That means when the president of our nation writes a law and signs it that says late-term abortions are fine, Mr. Bill Clinton. When Hillary Clinton stands up and says Margaret Sanger is one of my heroes. When Barack Obama says that Margaret Sanger should be hailed from the rooftops because of what she's done for women's rights. It's crazy. But now here we are in 2022, where the abortion debate is now up and running again. So going back to this lady, Miss Margaret Sanger. Man, I just got too much to get through. My heart is heavy because no child asked to be here. Like when you're dealing with children, if you've ever held a baby, if you've ever seen the reliance of a baby on an adult and how much the adult is needed for the sustaining of that baby, that a baby is, in every sense of the word, absolutely vulnerable. Like you can't just have a baby and just sit it on the concrete and the baby can't sustain itself. They're absolutely vulnerable. And we are now in a society when Roe v. versus Wade was passed in 1973, we didn't have the advantage of, we are so much more technologically advanced than we ever have been in the perils of human history. Like we know how birth works. We know how pregnancy works. We know how the human body adapts to the baby. We understand that. Like we understand how the body, you have a baby on the inside of you that has a separate heartbeat than yours. Even though that they're technically inside of your body, they're in the placenta, they're in the womb, and that womb is detached from yours. That it is a whole ecosystem, a whole life-giving system within that placenta. And God designed that so that that baby is getting everything that it needs. In 1973, we didn't have the advantages of the kind of ultrasound methods that we have today. We can watch and we can hear the baby's heartbeat. We can see babies sucking their thumbs. We can see babies playing and clapping their hands in the womb. We can see that now. We didn't have such advantages like that in 1973, but we are so technologically advanced. Now watch this. With all of the technology that we have, and as so-called civilized as we are, We are still participating in the most barbaric practices on the face of the planet. Right now, how are we doing this? How is all of this even relevant right now? We're still arguing about when does life begin? That's not an argument, everybody. That's science. That's science. And those who love science, when science doesn't go their way, all of a sudden argues against science. So, lest I become too overwhelmed in this podcast, I will simply tell you this. Because I've participated on so many different fronts in regards to pro-life. I am pro-life. I am unabashedly pro-life. I believe that babies are a reward of the womb, and only God can bring forth life. Only God can do that. But when I see somebody on TV at an abortion rally with a shirt that says, "I've had 21 abortions," and on the back it says, "Don't stop me from having 21 more," you ask yourself, how low have we fallen? And Jesus said, it would be better for you to tie a millstone around your neck than to be cast and to be cast into the depths of the sea, than to harm one of these little ones. Little ones, he's talking about babies and new believers. Some of the harshest words that Jesus ever said was when he was talking about kids. You know, of all the people that I counseled, even sociologists will tell you this, that those who commit sex crimes against kids, there's no awakening from that. You have to register as a child sex offender for the rest of your life. Like, this stuff is, and so when I'm looking at all of this stuff that is going, listen, I try my best to be, how do I say this? To the idea of when my wife said that she was pregnant, as I look at my children right now, I can't imagine them not being here. I can't imagine them not being here. And all of the pseudo arguments that come with the abortion debate, people make mistakes, they shouldn't be punished for the rest of their lives, as if kids are a punishment. We are so into this whole space right now to where we want to relieve people of any duty and any consequence for their said action. We want to, in the case of where we was on a panel some years ago talking about, well, what if a person gets raped? And I said, okay, we can talk about that 0.6% that I just referred to earlier. But here it is. Okay, in that sad and tragic event that a woman is forcibly raped, and abortion is an issue, and abortion is an option. It seems to me that the baby pays for what the guy who raped you did. When we're talking about life, and I've said this before, y'all, it's hard for me to talk to people who are so concerned about life, but you have no issues with abortion. Like, it's hypocritical to me that you're concerned about a life that is 20, 30, 40, 50 years old who make decisions to put themselves in positions, but then you're not equally or even more offended by a life that was taken that was removed of any choices. And so when you're talking about all of the stuff that is coming on right now in regards to, babies and abortion, this thing is about to get really, really, really heated. And as somebody who loves God and someone who tries their best to live by the word in which God has spoken, I'm going to tell you this. There is forgiveness on the other side of abortion. But if you talk to any woman that has had an abortion, any woman, and I've talked to many of them, it stays with them the rest of their life. You talk to a Christian woman who's had an abortion, and she's asked for forgiveness and has been granted forgiveness. Yes, but it stays with her the rest of her life. God is a forgiver. God is a reconciler. God does all of that. But it is a life-altering event. And if you talk to any person that has had it, it is a scar, it is a stain, it is a pain that never, ever goes away. And so as we look at this thing, I'm at a place to where if I'm going down any mountain, it's going to be on the mountain of kids. It's not going to, adults make their own decisions. It's hard for me to, it's very hard for me to get behind a 50-year-old man who's made horrible decisions all of his life and go march for him. But I'll march for a baby. I get out there and go and we'll yell to the rooftops on a baby. But those who say that, we should be doing more, this is unacceptable, have no reckoning with this thing that was specifically made, at least in our country, to control a particular populace. To control a particular populace, to stop that populace from growing. Now, everybody, I know you don't like stuff like this, but listen, last year's census just came out. African Americans who were once at 14.7% of the population have gone down to 14.1%. Hispanics, who were at 13.6% of the population, has gone up to almost 18%. We're going to be the permanent underclass again. Again. But all of you social justice warriors won't go and advocate for the life of a black child. But you want to scream from the rooftops about a criminal. We embrace the things that are detrimental to our culture, and we shun the things that will enhance our culture. But you're quick to pick up a picket sign for George Floyd. You'll throw up a bronze statue in front of City Hall in 9 cities in America on a grown man. But you won't take that same energy. You won't take that same energy and go and fight for the life of a child. You'll go and give hundreds of millions of dollars to Black Lives Matter when they advocate for abortion and a woman's right to choose. You'll support them in droves, but won't do anything to support black babies. Now, say what you want to say. I got evidence and proof that the people that are on the front line of the abortion debate and those who are fighting for pro-life are not black folks. Black folks ain't fighting for that. Now, you got a pocket few, of which I'm associated with. I know a lot of black people that stand up and stand against abortion, and they stand against it fiercely. I got some contemporaries that are doing that, and God bless all of you that are watching. But the majority of people standing up for life are not black Americans. But yet black Americans want to support agencies and entities that go to undercut the life that they say they're trying to support, which is absolutely nonsense. So if you want to support BLM, don't support that BLM. Support this BLM, which babies' lives matter. If you want to support a BLM, support babies' lives matter. Because babies' lives matter. And so all of these people that are going around and they getting mad at me because I'm pointing out the obvious, that you want to go over there and do all of this, But every abortion clinic, 93% of all abortion clinics are in low income areas. It costs you $350 to have an abortion in the first trimester. Costs you $425 to have an abortion in the second trimester. Costs you $550 to have an abortion in the third trimester. So a black baby's life at its most valuable is $550. And don't talk to me about Planned Parenthood and pap smears and cancer screenings and all of that other good stuff. Go to their annual report and figure out how much abortions state for their annual income. Almost 91% of their annual income comes from abortions, not from pap smears, not from cancer screenings, not from birth control. They make all of their money with abortions. They're federally funded by the government. They just got last year another $120 billion. But we're talking about foolishness that don't make a bit of difference. But when I stand up here and say that a baby deserves the right to live, and that sends some of y'all into a wild frenzy. No, it's a woman's body. It's a woman's body. A woman gets to choose what she wants to do with her body. Fine. But what about the body that's inside? Who gets to make that choice? Did we consult the baby? Now, I got all these. No, watch this. Now, the father has absolutely zero say-so in the abortion. It takes two to tangle. It takes two to get pregnant. Shouldn't it take two signatures? Shouldn't it take two affirmations to get an abortion? A woman can go and have an abortion without anybody knowing it. They just recently put a law in the books in 2019 that says a 16-year-old can get an abortion without the parent's permission. That's where we're at. That's where we're at right now. There's a video that is circling around and has been circling around for a number of years now of a boyfriend outside of a Planned Parenthood clinic in drowning himself in tears, begging his girlfriend not to have the procedure. Sitting on the sidewalk, Indian style, drenching himself in tears, begging his girlfriend not to have an abortion. But here we are, we make killing legal. And then have the audacity to say, if you kill another person, that's illegal. I believe this is going to go down as one of the greatest things on the landscape of America, and I believe this is going to be one of the harshest things that America is judged for, is the killing of innocent children. Now, this stuff in America, which is supposed to lead the industrialized nations, the modern nations, we're supposed to be purveyors of technologies, purveyor of truth. We are civilized, we are astute, we are educated, we are elite. We're living in big palatial homes, driving big fancy cars, but yet we are practicing barbarian practices by doing abortions. And I think that's crazy. Listen, there are ways not to get pregnant. If you got to do your do. If you got to do your do. I know telling people not to do this is like talking to a wall. So I'm not going to dare even waste my breath on doing it. However, I'm just going to tell you this. There are ways not to get pregnant. If you don't want to get pregnant, then don't get pregnant. See, I'm the result of a woman that got pregnant at 15 and had me when she was 16. But in talking to my mom, talking to my grandmother, and talking to my aunts, abortion was never an issue, never even a topic of conversation. Of a 15-year-old that got pregnant and had me when she was 16. The ripple effect of that is far and reaching. If I'm not here, There's no Team Holman. There's no Vinchelle Markela Jr. in faith. There's no missions program. There's no pastor. There's no impact. If one life gets taken away. Now, I want you to think about that times 73 million. Think about all the doctors, lawyers, and scientists and purveyors of education that were in that 73 million. Think about pastors, teachers. Think about politicians. Think about all the people that could have been a part of that 73 million. Think about the impact that they could have had that they don't have because they were not allowed to live their lives. Now, I'm sure that in that group, you're going to have some people that did wrong, as we all do. But the wonderful thing about God is that he gives us free will, which in Jesus' name is one of the most sacred gifts that God gives us. But we have to get to a place, everybody, to where we're being sensible. I mean, there's a bill that says when a woman is dilating, do you know what dilating means? It's when her cervix gets to 10 centimeters. 10 centimeters is enough for the head to fit through. Dilating is now the pain is starting to come. The epidural is given. It's birth time now, baby. We're in go mode now. And at dilation, a woman can say, you know what, no. Or the doctor can say, oh, well, she stands a risk of physical harm. And the baby that has been in there 9 months, that is kicking and moving and has feelings. We know babies are sensitive to light. We know babies are sensitive to sound. We know they feel emotion. We know that they feel pain. I have notes here that was going to explain the whole abortion process, but even as I'm looking over these notes right now, it burdens my soul to even say this stuff out loud, so I won't. Abortion is barbaric, and I don't think we should be allowed to kill babies in the womb. Now, to all of those who are offended and mad and upset and this and that and cussing and fussing and it's my body, it's my choice and all of that. A good friend of mine told me a couple of days ago when I told him we was going to be talking about this, he said, you know what? The American government forced a vaccine on us. And many said, it's my body. I don't want to do it. And at the risk of losing our jobs, at the risk of not being able to operate in society, we were told, who cares if it's your body? Who cares if it's your body? We get the right to decide what goes into your body or not. But now, this same argument is now flipped on his head. And it's my body, it's my body, it's my body. I can do. I'm going to tell you this last thing, and I'm going to say this with all conviction, because within this notes right now, I got 72 scriptures. And of all of the stuff that I have on these notes right now, I gotten through probably about 10% of it. God stands on the side of pro-life. God is a pro-life God. In case you were ever wondering, in case you needed to know, God is pro-life. God is not pro-choice. In case you ever wanted to know that, Scripture is abundantly clear that God is pro-life. Those of you who call yourselves Christians, you wear a cross around your neck, you attend a local church, you got a monogram Bible. You claim an affinity toward the Lord Jesus Christ and believe that he has saved your soul. You call yourself a Christian. You can't call yourself a Christian and be pro-choice at the same time. Nope, can't do it. Now, you can go through whatever emotional and mental hurdles that you want to validate your position. fine, do that if it makes you feel good. But just know that God is on the side of pro-life. Eugenics. I'm going to give you a movie that you should absolutely watch. You should absolutely watch this movie. This movie is called Maafa 21. Maafa is a Swahili term, an African term, and it means tragedy or disaster. Maafa 21. It is an excellent 2.5-hour documentary that takes us all the way back from the time in which we were brought over from Africa here to America. But it talks about the most greatest of all injustices, and that is the abortion industry, specifically aimed toward Black America. It is an absolutely amazing documentary and something that I highly suggest that you go and look at. So at the risk of sounding too spiritual and loving kids too much, I always tell my wife, I am the baby whisperer. I take my cues from babies. When babies don't come to certain people, that's a very big indicator to me. Like babies know game. Like when a baby's like, no, they don't want to come, I take notice of that. When babies are the most pure. They're not defiled by all this stuff that we see in the world. And so babies, in my opinion, I know they're born in sin and shaped in iniquity. I know what the scripture says. But they have not been tainted by bad choices as we adults have. So I know I'm not going to get through all of this, and I'm not going to try to. I was going to do this last week, but I wasn't mentally prepared to get into this space because it's so draining talking about this issue and really trying to talk about this issue from the place of facts and not opinions. It's really draining to kind of see where this issue has gone into the depths of hell that it has originated from and how far we are willing to go in order to make sure that this thing stays on the books. And it's crazy to me. So I was going to do it last week. I didn't do it last week. I really wasn't going to do it this week until Sunday when I began to start kind of walking through this thing and decided that I wasn't going to get to some of these notes because it's just too much. It's just too much, y'all. Abortion is just too much. It's just too much. It's too heavy. It's too heavy, and it brings you down. It really brings you down. There's something like this is permissible in 2022, which is crazy. But everybody, I want to thank you. And I make no mistake, I was going to bring my boxing gloves in here to simulate that. I'm taking the gloves off. So if you got some good comments, some bad comments, some very, very negative comments, put them in that box. I can stand under the mantle by which I stand on right now. I can validate my position if anybody wants to challenge that. Get in those comment box. Tell me, hey, you right on, or man, you way off. Give me a perspective that I had not talked about or maybe I had not thought about. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. This is an open forum, and we're going to be very, very hospitable. We're going to be very, very adult-ish. But we can take it. We can take it. If you disagree with some of the things that I said today, man, get in that comment box. Talk to me, PastorMDH@StudioB.com. Give me an email. Give me a shout. We can talk about it here. But the only thing that I talk about, the only thing that I would warn us on debating with on abortions with 2 people, 3 people, or a panel, is that sometimes those emotions can run very, very high. And I've been a part of some abortion panels where the main thing got pushed all the way to the back, and it was nothing but emotion that was being talked about. So it's a very, very tricky issue, a very, very divisive issue. I get that. But again, as I leave you with this, God is pro-life. He is not pro-choice. You just need to decide which side you're going to be on. I work with an adoption agency right now that has... that is more than willing to walk alongside of that young mother or that mother who does have a pregnancy that she hadn't planned for, and they walk with you every single step of the way. We got the Moses Law on the books. We got a lot of different things going on as opposed to abortion. So, and trust me, there are many parents out there, many couples out there who do not have the ability to have babies. God has not blessed the womb like that, but they desire children. And so trust me, there are many different options out there that are available. And I'm happy to share any and all of those options with you, should you so care to know about them. To that mother out there that has had an abortion, let me tell you, God loves you. God is rich in mercy and rich in forgiveness. God will cast your sin as far as the east is to the west, never to remember them again. And whatever we cast at his feet, whatever we trust him with, Paul said that he's able to keep that which I have entrusted to him. So if you've been on the other side of this and you've made that decision and there's some stuff going on, you're suffering through it, let me tell you that there is forgiveness, there is grace, and there is mercy. And God will give it to you should you so ask him. The fruit of the womb is God's. And only God can put life in the womb. Now, the devil can taint life, but the devil can't create life. I always remember that God is for you. And I'm very, very sensitive about this issue. And I want to encourage to my brothers, to my sisters who have gone down this route, and you are dealing with the issues thereof. God is able to heal that. God is able to heal that gaping hole that has been put there by this thing called abortion. And so I want to encourage you with those words, that if you're watching, there is grace, mercy, and forgiveness offered to us by Jesus Christ, our Lord and our Savior. And so, everybody, I want to thank you for tolerating me for this hour, and forgive me if it was overly passionate. It's just something that I truly, truly believe in. And I believe that God is on my side as I stand against this thing. And so, thank you for joining us here on the set of Studio B. Really appreciate you guys. Remember, like, comment, follow, subscribe, all of that good stuff on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Follow. We're almost up to 10K subscribers. Everybody help us to get over that hump. Invite your friends and all of those onto the set. And everybody, I will always encourage you, if God be for you, it's more than the entire world against you. Be informed, be empowered.